one of the last sessions today, Data Cuisine, how to get juicy data from spreadsheets. With our three lovely ladies over there. That is Anna in the middle. Annalena Schiller is head of visual sense making. Then we have Silke Grunewald. She's a reporter at the Swiss magazine Neue Zürcher Zeitung. And Lisa Rienermann on the right side. She describes herself as somebody whose job it is to explain important stuff with pictures. So, have fun.
Hi everyone, welcome to the session. Can I just see how many English-speaking people we have in the audience? Okay, that's enough to do this in English. Because we thought if all of you are German-speaking, we're going to switch back to our mother tongue, but then we'll keep this in English. So welcome again, everyone. My name is Annalena, and Silke, who's just moving to the right, and Lisa, and we're going to talk for half an hour about a project we're doing called Data Cuisine, or in German that would be Datenküche. And we'll give you some insights into what that is, why we're doing it, what it looks like, and what it has to do with data visualization. Can you give that a go, Silke? Okay. So here's a question for you. Who is this? And I promise you a little reward for this. If you guess who that is. It's me as a child? No, not the right answer. It's her. Very good, very good. You get a cookie. Come up here. So there's lots of cookies up here, and we fully intend on spreading some cookie love to you. And why we have cookies up here, we're going to let you know later on. So this is Lisa, and I'm going to tell you a little story about Lisa, because when Lisa was 5 years old, she was, like pretty much every other child. She didn't really like vegetables. And her dad came up with a great trick to actually make her eat veggies. And he took some beetroot and celery and carrots and tomatoes, and he blended all those and made a great, colorful spaghetti sauce out of that. And actually, that turned out to be Lisa's favorite dish. And what's the point that we're taking from this? What's the insight? It is that sometimes you have to transform something that's not really tasty for children, like vegetables, and turn it into something that looks different, but that tastes great, and to actually make it approachable and digestible. And our point is that data is kind of the same like not so tasty vegetables for children, because data usually comes in Excel sheets, and it's lots of rows of numbers and boring to read and not interesting at all, and you have to transform it and give it a shape and give it some kind of visual form so that it's actually appealing and digestible. And there's different forms of data visualization. And this is what it usually looks like. This is the old form that you've seen this for decades in magazines. Very complex 3D infographics with lots of text, very dense. Still very hard to consume, but very interesting. And this is something that we've come across a lot in the last couple of years. You might have seen those. Having been passed around on Twitter and Facebook. So those kind of infographics and data visualizations you see for every topic, and all kinds of things. So what are data visualizations usually made up of? There are three big pillars. The first one is data. There's always a data set you need in order to do good data visualizations. And then there's a topic, and this can be anything ranging from football to health or technology. And last but not least, you need a visual way to transform data and the topic into something that's appealing to the eye. And that's usually what we've seen, like, computer-based Illustrator stuff. And now here's how we're doing it. Can you move forward? So we're also taking data for our Data Kitchen project. And our topic that we chose is politics. And the visual we're using is food, so that already gives you a hint on why we have so many cookies up here. So Lisa, can you tell me a bit about what happened in the summer of 2011?
Well, in 2011, we just got to know each other, and one summer we were sitting, barbecuing, drinking lots of beer, and planning the election night for the Berlin election in September of that year. And since Annalena is really fond of waffles, and she really likes to do waffle parties every once in a while, we said, okay, let's do that and do waffles and eat waffles all night and look at the election results. And then we were always talking about that evening as Wahlwaffel. Let's do the Wahlwaffeln, so election waffles. And then we came, after a few beer, we came up with the idea to visualize the elections with waffles. Huh? Probably 4 or 5.
Okay, and we're going to take a look at how that looks like. This is the Dear Mayor voorbereid. And we actually came up with a whole photo series of pictures. And this was the headshot. Lisa, would you like to add some comments to the visuals?
Yeah, I mean, we just took some kind of food which is the same color code as the parties are, and we showed how many % they got in the election. And we also visualized the voters and non-voters, how many people even went to the election, and the gains and losses, also always in the color code by the parties. And also had a few comments on the political outcome of the elections. So we don't just visualize the election results, but also like tiny comments to that.
Okay, here's the next question. You now have some insight into what kind of projects we do. And what happened in 2012 that might have been interesting for us?
You can get a cookie.
These cookie rewards.
Little hint, it's politics. Yes.
You want some cookies? Come up here. You can choose. Okay, so US election. Of course, that was a bit bigger than the local Berlin election. And we talked about how we wanted to make this project grow a little. We've been receiving really good feedback for the first project. So now we wanted to scale it up a bit. And with the project growing bigger, we of course needed more expertise and more hands on this project. And that is when we met Silke for the first time. Silke, can you tell us a bit about how you joined the project?
Yeah. Well, we actually didn't meet in person. I actually was, and still am, a very loyal follower of you and Alina on Twitter, and Lisa in the meantime as well. And you tweeted about that you were looking for help. And I read that, and I was like, well, this might be something for me, because by then I knew I would be covering the US elections for the Swiss daily newspaper Neue Zürcher Zeitung. So I thought, well, this might be a good chance to combine two passions, which is data and food. And apparently those two ladies could offer me that opportunity. And that's how it all got started. And actually this is the first time that we meet in person, or that we met in person. That was on Saturday and Sunday this week.
So when we started working on the project, it became clear to us that there's 3 different approaches to how to visualize. And there's a data-driven approach, there's a visually driven approach, and there's a content-driven approach. And we're going to see some pictures now from that election. We named it Binders Full of Burgers, so hat tip to...
Thanks to Mitt Romney.
Hat tip to Mitt Romney. And here's the first example of data-driven. Who would like to say something about that? Silke?
Yeah, what you say here is we're actually going through the decades of polling data that we discovered on Gallup.com that is decently quite well already presented on the page. You could download it and you could do your own little analysis with it. You could do some ordinary conventional line charts that I use to when I do conventional reporting for the newspaper. Or you can do something fancy like this with tomato sauce and mayonnaise.
Okay, and the next one was a visually driven idea. So we fell in love before we started to do the project with the idea of cutting a burger in half and the layers of the burger representing certain data. Now, we were so much in love with this idea that it was actually really hard to find appropriate data to do this with. And in the end, we came up with the campaign spendings. So the thickness of the layers, the patty and the tomatoes and everything that's in there represent the amounts of spendings. And here's an example of a content-driven idea. Lisa, how did this come about?
It started that I read an article about who's allowed to vote in the US, and I read that I think it's 2.3 million people are not allowed to vote because they're in prison. Then I read a bit more, or we read a bit more about this whole election system and came up with the idea to really count and to calculate who actually votes and how many people voting. So we just counted that down, that we had the full number in the beginning, and then the burger got even less and less, counting the people who actually vote and who actually decide who's going to be president.
That is one story that we took from the US magazine Foreign Policy. One of their editors actually sat down and counted the names of countries that were mentioned on TV by the respective candidates during the debate on foreign policy. And they did make mistakes in the first place, but with the help of their users, they could actually come up with a quite good list, and which you can see as Greece is mentioned twice, so that's why it got 2 fries. Well, in Germany loses, it didn't got mentioned once.
Actually, we got great media response. That was a bit surprising for us. We set up a Tumblr for this project and for the one before that as well. And after a pretty short time, we had over 30,000 Tumblr followers. And that blew our mind. On top of that, we had good coverage by national and international websites. So that was really, really great. And that's also, and we're going to talk about that later, why we're thinking about continuing this. But first of all, let me tell you about a little bit more about the 3 pillars. And the first of the 3 pillars is the data part, and that is Silke.
Yeah. So it all starts with data, which is my part, which is my job, which is my everyday life, basically. And we took data from various sources. As said, we took data from Foreign Policy, which is a media outlet in the US. We took data from the US consensus, like structural data. For example, the various voter groups. And what we also did, of course, looked at the polling data, which looked like something like this. So it's not very sexy. For most of them. It's not very juicy, it's not appealing to most of you properly. For me, of course, it is. And the fascinating part for me was, and still is, that I had the opportunity to work with one data set and have the opportunity to actually get this one, the very conventional line charts, and also this one. So which one is more appealing to you?
Then there's pillar number 2, and that is our visual, which is food, and that's Lisa's big area.
And I'm going to show you a little bit of our work in progress pictures. That's me trying to do one chart with sauces. And it's really nice to work with food because everybody somehow has a relation to food, and you can get more information. Oops, pictures boy. You can get you have a haptic feel for the stuff you want to visualize, but the problem is that food, after like a really short time, it looks really crappy. So you have to work really, really fast. And there are probably food stylists who work with little helpers and with hairspray and stuff like that. But we decided not to work with it because we didn't want to throw away the food, because we wanted to eat it. So we took it that far to work just really, really fast. And the other problem, or the other difficulty with food, is that it doesn't come in exact sizes. So in this case, I wanted to do the chart with French fries, but they don't come in these really nice sizes. So it took a while to have all the French fries in the exact size I want them to have. This is also an attempt to do a patty in a perfectly round circle. Didn't work, though, because in the pan it shrinks a lot. Next. Yeah, and this is also a nice picture where you can see how we work, that first we sketch out how the picture should look like, or how the graph should kind of be like. You can see that in the blue paper. And then we try to build the same in food.
Okay, and the last pillar is the topic, and there is a reason why we choose politics. It is because we believe that certain topics are really hard to communicate to a wider audience, like politics or socially relevant topics. And when we do pictures, we believe that we can actually, with our visual language, with combining a topic that might be a bit dry and using food to visualize it, that we can reach out to people who normally wouldn't be interested in that. So the reason why we're not doing, anything like football or normal stuff, but choosing politics is exactly that we want to make it relevant. Okay, so I warned you before, this is going to go on. We're going to make more food, and it's 2013 now. We've had 2 projects so far. And what's coming up this year? Can we spread some more cookie love? Yay! So this is the German eagle, also called fette Henne. There's different German eagles, but this is by far our favorite one. And of course, after having the 2 previous projects, we thought about how are we going to make this grow? Can we make it even bigger? Can we make it more interesting? What do we want to change? What do we want to improve? And, whoops, okay.
Changing colors.
So now it's a green eagle now.
It's a special effect.
And of course we thought about, now it's the 3 of us, but how can we professionalize it? And we thought about teaming up with a media partner, and our first choice was a German news website, Zeit Online, which some of you might know. And we would like to say hello to Sascha Vinor from Zeit Online. He's head of data journalism, and he's going to say some words.
Yeah, well, we know why you chose Zeit Online for a good reason. So what did it make you choose us?
We are very proud to have you in a cooperation, and when I told my team that we are in contact and the burgers from the presidential election, and that wow, we want them, and we are very proud to have you in our data blog, and we will build a kitchen in the data blog, and looking forward to work with you.
I can say that we're looking forward to moving into a new kitchen, at least for the time of the election coming up in fall this year, starting up in August. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
So we've heard this little rumor that some of you would like us to move into your kitchen at your newsroom. But we're probably going to stay in our home studio and do those visuals there. Okay, so this is going to come up starting sometime in August this year, and it's going to be on the Zeit Online data blog. Yeah, next one. And now we finally you will find out why we have all these cookies standing here. We thought about, Zike, would you like to say something?
Yeah, we thought of many topics that we could actually try to cook or bake for the Republica. And we came up with we stumbled over one question, which is, how dirty is your data? We thought this is a good starting point to have a look into that. So usually emissions are measured by convention with carbon dioxide equivalents, right? A very theoretical measure that you don't have a gut feeling properly for it. So we thought this is a good starting point to actually show what might by 100 grams of CO2 equivalents transferred to activities in everyday life.
Is there any way to get this green out of the screen? Because it's going to look really weird with green on.
So it should be a darkish gray or something, not a pinkish gray.
So you'll just have to imagine this would usually be gray and black. Yeah. Okay. Could I ask our cookie carrier to come up here? Because now we're going to have a little interactive part. And grab a cookie tray, or maybe even both of them. Can you handle that? Yeah. And if you could step maybe in the middle, like in between the audience. Woo! Okay. Don't deal them out, yes? So here's how this works. We're going to deal out the cookies to those who make good guesses. So imagine 100 grams of CO2, and then my first question to you would be, how many Google searches can you do for that? 50? Do I hear more?
Can we have some more?
Okay.
Well, that's the closest we have, right?
Different number? Okay.
No, I think we have a winner.
It's 500 Google searches, so there you go. Next one, please. And here's an email. How many emails can you send? And this is, an average email. It doesn't really matter whether it comes with an attachment or not, or if it's plain text. So on average, how many emails can you send for 100 grams of CO2? 750? 100? 200? 1,500? 3. Sika, I don't even remember the exact number, so you would need to know.
I do have the solution. I think it was the gentleman in the green shirt. Was it 200? Oh, to the right. It's 333.
Mr. Cookie Carrier, do your deed. Okay. So this is a Facebook like. Yay, we're back to colors. Great. So how many days can you spend on Facebook for 100 grams of CO2? And again, this is on average. This is posting and reading, browsing, spying in other people's lives. How many days? 2? 9.5? A week? What's the...
Who was 9.5? There you go. Lucky lady.
It's 11 days on Facebook. And here's for the healthy ones. How many grams of carrots can you eat for 100 grams of CO2? How many grams?
Or kilos, maybe.
Kilos is cool as well. No veggie lovers in the room. Oh. 50 kilo or 50 gram? 50 kilo, more or less? 3 kilo? 200 grams? Okay.
That's about 4 times 200 grams, but nevertheless, closest.
877. So who was closest? Okay, and this lovely little thing is beef. So how many grams of beef? 2 grams? 500 grams? 100. Okay, what do we have?
7.
It's 7 grams. Ooh.
So where's the 2?
What? There were 2 2s, so everyone gets cookies. Help yourself. I think we have 3 more, huh? So there's a car. How many meters can you drive in your car? 1 meter. Half a meter. Okay.
A little bit more optimistic.
3 meters. 5, 10, 200, 300. Okay, how much is it? 400 meters. That's quite a bit, huh? 400 grams of CO2. And the second to last, here we have a cup of coffee. Next to Club Mate, the Republican attendees' favorite drink. How many cups of coffee can you drink for 100 grams of CO2? 3? Half a cup? 10? 11. Okay, what do we have? 1.
So it's for the gentleman with the half.
The gentleman up front. And here's probably the most relevant one. Who's using Twitter in the room? Can I see some hands? Okay. So now you're going to find out how many times you can tweet until you use up 100 grams of CO2. Do I get any guesses? 2,000. 3,000. 500. 2,500. 1 or 2 more guesses? 700. 250. This is nice. It's kind of like auction bidding.
I love that. I love that.
I'm going to change my job.
Any more bids?
Okay, so what's the result, Zeke? There you go. It's 10,000 tweets. Oh my God. Okay, so 11 days on Facebook and 10,000 tweets. So since all of you, or most of you, are on Twitter, we would like to present to you our hashtag, and that is Datenküche. We're mostly going to do this in German. So from August on, when we're going to start the next project with Zeit Online, you can find updates with that hashtag. If you don't want to wait that long, we also have a couple of browsing tips for you. And you can check out our former project Tumblrs. That is Wahlwaffeln.tumblr.com. That's a German one. And then there's bindersfullofburgers.tumblr.com. Or follow us on Twitter. Those are our handles. And I think we're about done. We have some cookies left, so we're probably going to hand those out. Come up here if you want some. Oh. So thank you to Lisa. Thank you to Lisa and thank you to Zeke. Thank you, dear audience. Have a lovely evening and enjoy your night.